YouTube, and I'm getting us started over in Pal Talk so they can hear us. Yeah, and exactly. Now she's stuck. Exactly right. YouTube. Okay. I'm getting us started over in Pal Talk so they can hear us. There we go. Yeah, and exactly. Now she's stuck. And now we're hearing our Pal Talk. YouTube. Wait.
What? I think they here, Nick. Quack, 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 quack.
I have too many browsers open. I don't know. Oh, let me see. Oh, you know what? No.
What? I think they here, Nick. Quack, quack, quack.
This is too many browsers. Deja.
You got a pretty good delay going there.
No kidding. And it's just right here on my own computer.
What? I think they here, Nick. Quack, quack.
Too many browsers.
That's like you got a loop.
Pretty good
I used to do that with reel-to-reel tape on the Ampex machines and at Electronic Music Studio UC Davis. And that was when it was all analog. There wasn't any digital. It's like you got a loop.
I do
I
got
used to do that with reel-to-reel tape on Ampex machines and at Electronic Music Studio UC Davis. And that was when it was all analog. There wasn't any digital. It's like you got a loop.
I did have
I
this
do that with
amazing.
reel-to-reel tape on Ampex machines and at Electronic Music Studio UC Davis. It was all analog. There wasn't any digital. My apologies for laughing, Lynn. It's just humorous you got such a good loop going, and I haven't heard a good loop like that in a long time.
That's hilarious. Oh my gosh. Well, isn't that just that's the echo of time. It's like
Yes, it's
that
all one big echo, isn't it?
it is, and it's a loop, and it's just going on and on and on and on. And oh, that's hilarious. And oh, that brightens up my Saturday. I mean, seriously, it's so fun to see what this dream is full of and what kind of crazy stuff happens here. It is um I don't know. It happened to me yesterday morning too. It must be, Venus must be in retrograde or Mercury or whatever. Something must be going on. Well, I know we've been having a lot of solar flares, and holy cow, man, it's crazy if you keep an eye on that stuff. So
Well, if you think about how loony this world is, maybe we've been having loony flares too.
I'm no, we have. You're right.
I mean, you hear a lot about solar flares, but what about lunar flares?
Well, I'll tell you, the Luna reflects the solar, so
That's right. That's right.
so whatever is going on there is being right back at you, just like
Yeah.
the dream in this, the whole illusion of this world. How, once I began to understand that it really is a reflection of my own thinking. And it's, people think it's not popular to think that, that what you're seeing is what you want to see, and what you're
Mhm.
asking for is being presented to you. It's hard to think that because, how could that be true? I'm a good person, and, it looks like a pretty crazy world. And you have to really look at, oh, how crazy are my thoughts? Not
Mhm.
my thoughts, ego thoughts that are being just fed to me, and I'm just lapping them up like they're ice cream. But really, it's just these.
Not our real thoughts, but if we entertain them and make them welcome rather than just saying no thanks, or I gave it the office, or I've got all I need, thanks, you know, and dismiss them politely at the door,
We're just renters here. That's what I always say. Um,
Oh, that's a good line. I like that one too.
I'm just a renter here. You can talk to the landlord if you want to put on solar panels or whatever, or you want to mow my lawn or fix my trees, or I mean, I don't mind people coming to the door
Yeah, yeah.
with
Sometimes you
requests.
get an interesting conversations. Well,
Yeah,
shall we pick up where we left off? Are
yeah,
you
yeah,
aligned with?
stable enough now. And I think what I would like for you to do actually is to reread what you just read.
Sure, sure. We'll call this um, an 8-minute pre-party patter.
That's right. There we go.
That's a good alliteration. I didn't even notice that until I said it.
I
Okay,
like.
so we are reading Lynn Johnson and myself, A Symphony of Love, selections of Dr. Kenneth Wapnick's writings, autobiographies, poetry, short stories, and articles, edited by Gloria Wapnick from the Foundation for A Course in Miracles. And you can download and or get a print copy of this wonderful book that we're reading from facimstore.org, facimstore.org, and also lots of other wonderful things from Ken and Gloria. So,
Yes.
uh, and all highly recommended. So let's see. I think I've got what's that? I returned by same place as you, looks like. I returned the following day, again getting lost and coming late, and the entire inner process repeated itself, but even more intensely. I had never known anything like it before. It was as beyond my experience at Gethsemane, Kentucky, as any as that had been beyond all that had preceded it. And though I knew it had to be related to the meaning of the procession, retracing the last footsteps of Jesus, during the actual procession, I in no way, quote, thought, unquote, of where I was, nor what I was saying or chanting. In that sense, it was identical to my content, in quotes, content free, unquote, experiences with music. So the obviously the physical uh, details and particulars were just incidental to the decision in the mind, as Ken would likely say if he were here to
Well,
comment
can we
further
step
on it.
back a minute? I
Sure.
just realized something.
Okay.
Um, for those who may not have been here last week or have been following along with us,
Uh-huh.
maybe a little context,
Oh, yes, please. Yes.
what what had
Yeah. Yeah.
occurred.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. I oftentimes we back up a paragraph or two, but yeah. Yeah.
so maybe not the whole paragraph, but
Well, maybe just he Ken was I believe he was uh, retracing the what's it 14 stations of the cross
yes,
and having a mystical experience basically at this
yes, exactly.
location. Yeah.
Yes. So
And
he did the Stations of the Cross, and then
and this was in Israel. Yeah.
in Israel, yes,
Right,
at
right.
the was it Mary Magdalene or some specific chapel that you said, I think you said you had been there. Um,
Oh,
so
oh no. Oh, well, if this was uh, the monastery at St. Catherine's in Egypt, I think that was another story, but which I have
oh,
been to, but I haven't been to Israel. So,
okay, so all right, well, all right, so this I don't know where this was, but it doesn't really matter because he went through the Stations of the Cross, and as he was going through the Stations of the Cross, he began having a mystical experience. And so at this time, then he said, I continued to kneel with my eyes closed, bathed with tears of indescribable joy. And then it was over, and I staggered out, aware only that I had been in the presence of a great mystery, an unfathomable process that somehow had brought me closer to God. And so then we get to the paragraph that you just read,
yeah.
that he was still in a place where
Mhm.
he was having this same mystical experience.
Right.
So,
And
so
the
there,
place
now,
being in his mind, as he would be quick to say,
yes,
rather
yes,
than in a geographical location. And we were
exactly.
talking about that in the last week or three. That it's not
Yeah.
about the form, it's always the content in the mind. And places, because of our expectations and beliefs, can seem to trigger experiences, and yet it's really our decision in the mind. And if you know, at the risk of misusing that word, which of course uses sparingly, our soul's timing and decision to want to wake up, and we, as the course does say, special agents seem to be ministering to him, meaning places and people and um chemicals and circumstances of every size, shape, size, and description, seem to be ministering to us, but they merely give form to our decision in the mind to want to see things differently, to want to
Well,
see Holy Spirit's correction instead of ego's misinterpretation, if that makes sense.
exactly. And the thing that is so beautiful about this is that it's true. Everything is here for us.
Yeah, yeah,
Everything is coming to us. Everything is given to us. Every moment of every day, we are being given everything that we need all the time. Just like, we're reading Joel Goldsmith, and he says, you know, do you plant the seed in the ground and then watch to see that it comes up and go every day and every day? No, you plant it in the ground, it's where it belongs and it's going to grow. That's what we are. We're doing what is the natural thing for us. That
hmm
is in this uh yes, totally unnatural universe, crazy world. And
right,
yet God has not said, "Oh, well, you guys are on your own then, because you don't want to live with me and do what I like." No, God said, "Yeah, okay, go for it, and everything you need is here because I've already given you everything." So, the perception of need is so uh, outlandish when it's like you're in the Garden of Eden and have everything, and get this perception of, oh, I think there's something missing. Oh, let me figure that out. And next thing you know, you're in hell and living and dying. So the whole thing being that nothing changed except our perception.
exactly. And what you could apply that same principle to what we call physical birth and physical death. Nothing is really changing except what seems to be a physical experience. I was also thinking about what we typically, categorize as mystical experiences. And three examples came to mind that are probably familiar with most of the people listening. One is Buddha having a mystical experience under the Bodhi tree, wherever the Bodhi tree was in India, or where I think it was India. And then
Yeah.
and then um, but who knows where that tree is, and and if they've made some kind of shrine or something to it, if that's even locatable. And then the other two that come to mind, more contemporary, was Eckhart Tolle sitting on a park bench for a number of years, and having this aha experience that I think also involved reading A Course in Miracles. I'm not sure if that was before or after, but that park bench episode or set of episodes, but um, and then Byron Katie sitting on, I'm not sure if it was I think it was, it might have been a kitchen floor watching a cockroach crawl past. It's like, well, do we really need to find where Byron Katie was sitting and make a shrine into, the cockroach kitchen,
Yeah,
or to Eckhart Tolle's park bench? Probably not, but it's and those probably weren't responsible for their experience directly, but as a catalyst, each of us has our own mathematically perfect classroom, and if we're choosing to want to see the correction, we'll find that correction anywhere. It's not about place and time.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And it is, but it also says in the course, the time is already set.
Yeah, right, right.
So it's going to happen. And
Yeah.
that's why, you can be grateful now, joyful now, because it's already here.
Mhm.
And so I think this is, I'm loving this experience that Ken is having, and I know he was a mystical guy, so he had his eye open for whatever seemed to be occurring, and so um, he could have been sitting on the toilet and have the
Mhm.
same thing,
Mhm.
not
Mhm.
walking the walking the stations of the cross. And oh, by the way, I did find that recording of Bob Rosenthal talking about the mystical experience that he had
Oh,
uh,
good.
when he went and accidentally took communion. So I think I'll send that to you. It's a
Oh, that'd
great
be neat.
talk by Bob.
Sure.
I'll send it
Cool.
over to you.
Thanks.
And okay, so let's continue. Do you want me to read or you want to keep reading?
Oh, I'll read another paragraph or two.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So Ken continues, by the third day, I had somewhat settled down and made my way to the church with no problem and with time to spare. And then it began, and I could feel something even more special inside. I think Ken might have used a different word. I know he probably scribed this shortly after this. I'm not sure, but anyway. But the courses use of the word special obviously has special significance. You might say, in terms of there's special love and special hate, and then Jesus undoes the whole special hoopla by saying all my brothers are special. Anyway, it's kind of one of those words that I pay attention to, and 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 try to
Well, that
smile when I hear it and read it.
isn't that special.
Isn't that special? Exactly. Thank you, SNL. And that interstate built up rather quickly, and its intensity mounted as we went along. By the time we entered the chapel at the end, I was barely able to control my sobbing. I knelt amidst the swelling tones that seemed to envelop me and felt as if I were merged into a single praise-filled song. At the same time, I was. Um,
Sorry,
oh,
I was.
I was reading your screen instead of mine.
I'll tell
It's
you
my-
what, because I'm so used to people
yeah.
getting to that I was and just stopping. So I just know that they're going to be there and I move the page. So
Oh, that's okay. That's good. No, I normally read the screen, what I have up on my screen rather than yours. At the same time, I was shaking in his presence, barely able to stand it. And then I looked up the first time in 3 days, and it was the moment that the priest was holding aloft the monstrance, whatever that is, and blessing the
like
congregation.
chalice kind of thing,
Okay, yeah.
kind of thing that, that host the the host the bread, the body of Christ is on.
Oh, okay, okay. So it's yeah, when they put the crackers, the
Yeah.
wafers. Okay. I looked and it became I in his place, and it was I spreading forth the Spirit of God to the world. I began to tremble and lowered my eyes once more. On leaving, I suddenly remembered Parsifal and its final scene. That priest was, for me, was Parsifal, and it had now become myself as well. And the meaning of the procession and Wagner's opera seemed somewhat clearer, at least in terms of what it referred to. Perhaps God wanted me to become a priest, or perhaps something else, but all that I was sure of was that he was very much with me. Okay, I'll pause there.
That, yeah, wow.
Very
Wow.
much with us. I think that's the message, isn't it? And the course suggests that we don't have to have a personal relationship, quote unquote, with Jesus of the course. Um, but we do need to have something equivalent to that, as Ken Wapnick likes to say. We need to cultivate an appreciation, acceptance, and ultimately a communion with. You could call it Holy Spirit, you could call it inner kindness teacher, which is one of my favorite little phrases, or any non-ego presence is a phrase he uses that works for you. Obviously, if you speak a different language, put it in your own words, but something that's ego-free that provides that correction in our mind that's always there. We took it with us into the dream, and there's no way we can ditch it, because that's what not only where we're headed, but how we're heading there, and what we ultimately become until we dissolve all remnants of duality altogether. And Robert has his hand up.
Oh, go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, can you share a little bit about Parsifal to put this in context?
Um, sure, maybe. Do you know more? I know it's
I know a
as
little bit about it, but maybe why don't you go then?
I'll tell you well, I don't know. This is from a opera by Wagner, and I'm not sure because Parsifal was one of the Knights of the Round Table, I believe, who was looking for the Holy Grail, and I think I remember that from Monty Python, but
Yeah,
but I'm pretty sure that's the name of the guy who was
yeah.
out. And I don't know what you know, so maybe more than.
Well, I just looked. I will put this in the chat. Wikipedia has that Parsifal entry as a music drama in three acts by German composer Richard Wagner in his last composition, Wagner's own libretto. For the work is freely based on the 13th century Middle High German chivalric romance Parzival, V-A-L, or Z-I-V-A-L, of the Minnesänger Wolfram von Eschenbach, and the old French chivalric romance Perceval ou Le Comte du Graal, pardon my French pronunciation, by the 12th century, again, I'm going to probably butcher this, Trouvère Chrétien de Troyes, recounting recounting different accounts of the story of the Arthurian knight Percival, and his spiritual quest for the Holy Grail. So yes, Monty Python figures in humorously here, but that's a quick summary of both the Wagnerian opera and the origin of his
The Monty
inspiration.
Pythonian.
Yeah, got to have
Night.
some Monty Python. I mean, that's
Kinnigates.
a must, Okay. Meanwhile, hopefully that's adequate and provide enough to go on for people who want to dig into that further.
That's funny. I love it. I love it. It's just so funny because, the things that we love just, come up in the most crazy ways. And now just thinking about that film and all the ways that, I mean, I reference that film probably maybe not every day, but once or twice a week, something comes up that I'm
So do you think of the King Arthur on horseback when you eat coconut? Because that's
when
how
I'm
they made the coconut sounds, as they were clopping together two empty coconut halves to simulate horse hooves, right? Because they
yeah,
couldn't afford horses, right?
yeah, or uh I remember when I fell and broke my shoulder and I said, it's just a flesh wound.
Uh, oh no! And then the French up in the castle wall saying, "Oh no, we don't need any grails. We already have one. Thank you very
I
much."
already got one.
Yeah.
Now for
All
what?
those scenes are so memorable. It's funny. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my
And then
God.
when they haul the Trojan rabbit in, it's uh, catapulted back over the wall because they realize there's nothing in value in it, and they like, run away. Yeah. Anyway,
Oh
all those
my God.
good things. Yeah. Yeah.
All that good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
now
They cover a lot of ground in their silly movies,
they
but
do.
some of them are actually. I think Life of Brian actually has a lot of profound thoughts in it as well.
Very
That
profound.
yeah.
Very profound. So much of all that is.
My favorite scene from Life of Brian, I'll end the digression soon, is got to be when Brian comes to the balcony window after being chased around by his contemporaries, think he's might be the new Messiah, and they're still waiting outside the next morning in a throng outside his balcony window, and he realized he has to kind of shoo him away, so he didn't make an attempt at that anyway. And he says, "Okay, we're all individuals," and they shout back in unison, "Yes, we're all individuals." And then, we all need to think for ourselves, and we all need to think for ourselves. And then, um, but when he says we're all individuals, there's one little weak voice that says, "I'm not." I love that.
I love that too.
I mean, the double entendre of that is wonderful,
It
which
is good.
could be a subplot of Pluribus on Apple TV.
Yeah,
We want
which
we
that's
wanted to go down that road, which we probably should do that on another program.
well, that but I'll tell you again, that pluribus is the thing that is just like all these other shows where there is the Borg or
Right.
the Matrix, or it's always like some horrible thing
Oh, of
that you're
course,
being
because
united
we're
with.
trying to solve the problem on not on the level where it was made, as to paraphrase Einstein, but we're basically saying let's fix the effect at the level of the effect, and with level confusion on steroids, you're not going to get very far, right?
No, you're not. And
Yeah.
that I'm not an individual is probably the the most profound thing that could be said as well. You know,
Uh-huh, uh-huh. Yeah,
so
and within the right context, right? Yeah,
the right context. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
All right. So I will continue reading.
Okay.
Okay. I somehow managed to make it through the evening and awoke early the next morning, as was my custom, and sat at the desk to continue work on Abraham. And he was writing a book and like a novel or something about Abraham.
Mhm.
Um, but I was unable to write. There was something else, though I was unsure what. And he capitalized that something also. I laid down my pen and closed the light. I did not have long to wait. He was there, and it was his voice I heard, clearly and distinctly. You are to be a monk and a priest. I fell to the floor, unable to stand the power of that moment. It was not a voice as belonging to someone speaking in the room, nor was it as I had experienced messages in the past, such as with the ocean. This was different. It was a voice with a capital V that came from within, but heard with a startling clarity. And it had such authority that there could be no question that it did not come from me, but had another source. At some point, and of course, we're going to hear that. We're going to think if I hear a voice that sounds like that, it's coming from somewhere else. And, eventually we'll come to the place where we'll recognize, oh no, it's coming from what I am, not somewhere else. It is me. It is what I am. But at that point, he saw it as something outside of himself, that bicameral mind thing. At some point, while on the floor, I assented, yes, dear God, if that is your will, then that is how it will be. A monk, yes. A priest, yes. I knew clearly that the two belonged together, but did not know much beyond that. At some point, I recognized that they may have been meant symbolically, but certainly it was far too early to tell. It did seem significant, however, that this had occurred just prior to my going to the Trappist monastery. Yeah, you think? I spent the balance of the early morning hours sitting alone with God in a darkened church, trying to assimilate what had happened. That afternoon, I went one final time to the procession, and thankfully, I could not have stood anything more. It was a beautifully peaceful experience, a lovely way, I thought to myself, to end this 2-week period in Jerusalem. The next morning, I left for Latrun, about 15 miles west, equidistant between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. And very shortly after being greeted by the abbot and taken on a tour of the beautiful grounds, I again experienced that strange feeling of being at home. Only now I was halfway around the world in a community where only French was spoken, a language I could read but barely speak. But it
Silly
was the
English Kniggets.
for English Canadians.
Couldn't resist.
And now go away and I'll talk to you some more. But it was the Trappist vibe, and I fell into its rhythm with no difficulty at all. Above all, I felt the most at home in the church, beautifully simple and all of stone. Many would be the day I would spend as much time there as I did sleeping. Christmas was a beautiful and lovely day, and by the time it had passed, I had begun to think of extending my stay. A number of the monks had encouraged me to remain, and the abbot told me I could stay as long as I liked. And the more I thought of it, the more it seemed as if it were here I should be. And I knew, even though I had come no further writing since coming, that once I would settle in, I could truly begin to work, not only on Abraham and whatever else would come, but on the Rilke book as well. It ended, of course, with there not being much to decide. God had brought me here and I was to stay. And so I did for 3.5 months. During that time, I lived like the monks, praying, working, and eating alongside them, retaining only a separate room in the guest house. In general, this period could be best characterized of one of consolidation. It's like the period of settling down in
Hmm.
the
Development of trust. Yep.
development of trust.
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah. But
Uh,
while we're paused here for a moment, I wanted to, I put a link in the chat to a blog post I did a while back on my other blog on geometrical metaphors and whatnot, geometrycode.com, that is about flatland. And Edwin Abbott's classic short story about a fictional place that was only in 2 dimensions, and how the three-dimensional characters in the story interacted with the people in 2 dimensions, and they basically would freak out when they would interact. And the metaphor that I like to use was, I don't think it was in his story, but which I never actually fully read, but I like the concept.
It's
And so
hard to read.
what's that?
Flatland was hard to read.
Yeah, did you read it?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
okay. Well, anyway, the metaphor that I like is, if you were in 3 dimensions and you wanted to, play a little, hopefully harmless fun, you know, perplexing someone in 2 dimensions. If you took, if let's say the 2 dimensional world was like a piece of paper, and all the characters were constrained to those only 2 dimensions, unlike us, us critters that we think we're in three, and with emphasis on think. But you could take a pencil and poke the lead through an unoccupied part of their world, and anybody nearby would see a black dot appear out of nowhere, and they say, "Gosh, am I hallucinating?" And then they'd be further baffled and mystified when that black dot, which was the pencil lead, turned into a a brown, a larger brown dot, or circle anyway, from our perspective,
Because
when
you
it would
wouldn't
be.
perceive any dimension, you would only perceive the flat circle.
It would be exactly. It'd be really a line, yeah. But then it'd be a longer brown line. And then from our perspective, just taking cross sections, then you'd see maybe a yellow hexagon when you got to the main part of the length of the pencil. And then it would continue that for a ways until it maybe would become a little bit wider, might be a green metallic line or circle again, and then a slightly smaller pink circle when you get to the eraser, and then it would disappear. And then so that the Flatlanders would call their equivalent of National Enquirer and say, "Wow, we just had this amazing mystical experience." And I like to think that, we know so little about our world, and modern physics is just beginning to get a hint of, what we think we're doing here, and needs a lot of help. and and the course is providing, generous insights into that, and also reminding us that we don't need to understand it. We just need to trust that there's a part of our mind that does understand it, and we can call that Holy Spirit, that inner kindness teacher, Jesus of the course, ego-free presence that can then lead us out of our limited dimensional thinking. And then in that same article, I referenced some other related posts, and some animations that a friend of mine in Dutch Flat, California, who's no longer with us, that gifted us with these amazing animations of 4 dimensional shapes. And the way he generated these was by taking 3 dimensional cross sections of 4 dimensional shapes and animating them in a smooth transition,
Oh,
just like you're taking slices, consecutive slices going through a 3 dimensional object and stacking
that-
them together. Pretty fun stuff. So
that's very cool. Yeah. Yeah. So, and because, yeah, there's a lot of speculation, the fourth dimension, fifth dimension,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
not the musical group. And you really, that we even can conceive of that.
right. And
Uh,
interestingly enough, well, go ahead.
but no, just go ahead.
Oh, in this article, and well, else as well as elsewhere on the geometrycode.com website, I reference places where there are mathematicians who've wrapped their heads around the stuff. One in particular who wrote a tremendous treatise on it, whose name escapes me at the moment, but Coxeter is his name, regular polytopes. And I think he might be the one that figured out that in 4 dimensions, there are exactly 6 regular polychora, I think is the right term for 4 dimensions. So like you have in our 3 dimensional world that we conceive of, we have cubes, which are the most familiar. Then we have tetrahedron, which is a 3-sided pyramid. And then we have an octahedron, which is 8 uh, equilateral triangles put together in like a double pyramid, back to back. And then you have the icosahedron, which is 20. It's probably the closest to a sphere, but all made out of 20 equilateral triangles. And then the dodecahedron, which is made out of 12 pentagons of equal sides and angles. And then so those are the the five polyhedra that we have in 3 dimensions, but in fourth dimension there are 6 regular polytopes, one of which has no counterpart in this world, but it's a mathematically robust 4-dimensional polytope, as they call them, and then from dimension 5 to infinity, I think it might have been um, Coxeter or one of those, pioneers in multiple dimensions who showed that there are exactly 3 regular polytopes in dimensions 5 through infinity. How they prove that mathematically, I do not know, because we can hardly even imagine a 4-dimensional object, which is like a hypercube or a tesseract is probably the simplest one, of taking a cube and then making you know more cubes in the extra dimension that are at right angles to the cube that's in this dimension. If that makes sense.
Well, all of this makes sense because I'm thinking, you had posted an article on your Facebook a few days ago about this Walter Russell,
Yes, yeah, I remember
who
reading about
was
him
in a
years ago.
trance for like 39 days, and
Uh-huh.
during that time, he basically defined everything that we know or think we know right now, 50 or how many years later, gosh, 100 years later, we're figuring out that what he saw during that time was actually what we're discovering now. And throughout the time, they even actually gave him an honorary doctorate in
Hmm.
uh, some science, because
Yeah.
he discovered that there was going to be plutonium and deuterium, and that at the time had not even been conceived of, and yet
Hmm.
they were able to, I mean, they found it later because we know all this stuff.
Yeah.
And know, the only way we can, prove it, if you have to prove it, is through, mathematical um uh uh equations and such. However, it's just like when Krishnamurti and David Bohm got together, and
Yeah. Yeah.
everything that was seen in the world from a what seemed to be a spiritual outside source of some sort is being proven through mathematics and physics now.
Hmm.
These there it's it seems like, why would we be so interested in all these esoteric things here, but really it comes down to, because what I know of what is so minuscule. I'm like a point
Yeah.
in,
Yeah.
this billions and billion, everything, and yet uh this is all a projection of my own thinking.
Yep. Yep.
And
Yeah.
so learning this is seeing, oh, this is what, you know, what I think I know is nothing.
Exactly. And I think I remember hearing a phrase in my college chemistry class. Peter Rockwell, I think, was the professor. Anyway, he would talk about equations where you'd have 2 terms added together in the denominator, or in the numerator. And he said, if you've got a really huge number and a really tiny number by comparison, you can kind of drop the tiny number for the purpose of not driving yourself crazy and getting a first approximation. So I just figure, even on the level of form, if we have a material universe that's who knows how many, millions of light years across, even just with our assumptions about what material, the material universe is, and the same, staggering dimension of billions of years of time, you know, like you say, we're just a point, you know, a first approximation, which is we're basically an infinitesimal nothing. The self that we made using our minds to be to want to be separate is an infinitesimal nothing. And the course, I think, elucidates that very frequently in phrases like, we must at some point be willing to consider the body as irrelevant as an acceptable idea. Because how could something that is so easily fooled and so insignificant, even on the physical level, let alone from the standpoint of an infinite mind that truly is omnipotent in its oneness, but uh, nothing in its divided state. I mean, we can't really wrap our heads around that, but we're asked to trust that our real identity is all together with that perfect oneness, and that's where the trust comes in. I was also thinking about, kind of bring it back to Ken's experience with it, hearing that voice. I remember when stereo came out, and I remember handing a pair of headphones to my grandfather and putting on, probably switched on Bach when I was a teenager on his head with a pair of headphones, and he says he was kind of like blown away. It's like, wow, it sounds like it's going on inside my head. And he was like, like, wow, what's that? And so you're thinking about the experience with flatland, and the flatland creatures, like, well, this is happening. How did somebody get in my two-dimensional room to make this this very distorted image of a pencil, appear and disappear in my room? I thought I had shut the door.
Well, and the fact is, he was hearing it inside of his head.
Yeah,
That
right, exactly. Yeah.
that's the only place where we experience anything is um through the interpretation of the brain. So you may think that you're experiencing things and that everything is happening outside of you, but you don't know any of it. The only thing that for all that we know, and I've contemplated this many times, meditated in this state many times. I'm just like a spot, just a point. And that point is experiencing itself in all of these apparently external things, but there's nothing out there. I could be sitting in a little dark room with no physical input and still be experiencing it because the experience is in my mind. So, that's something I contemplate a lot because bringing back to the responsibility for sight, that the vision of the world that I see is actually a projection of my own thinking. And, that's, for me, that I guess has been the kind of hard nut to crack there, because I'm so involved, engaged in the world, as I'm sure everyone is. I can't imagine that there's someone who's not. But even thinking about uh, you know being having uh, no external uh, stimuli,
Mhm.
I would still have a mind. I would still be here.
Exactly. Yeah. Or think we're here anyway.
I think I'm here. Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
you
What
know,
one more little story that I think relates to this, hearing voices and them not having a necessarily an exact physical, you know, describable, and certainly not provable origin. I remember reading, maybe it was an audio. I think it was an audio recording of Richard Bach, who wrote Jonathan Seagull and Illusions and all those wonderful books. And when he was in the Air Force, he was doing some training exercises somewhere in Europe, I believe, as a pilot. And there was a target that they weren't actually firing any weapons at, but they were, like practicing as if they needed to do that, and on the side of this mountain. And the planes in this formation would one at a time approach this target and then pretend to, fire their weapons or whatever, and then pull out, right? And and then loop back around and come around again and, do this several times. So anyway, he was flying solo in this Air Force plane, and just describing how, the first two or three loops went fine without incident, and the next one, as he was approaching, he heard this voice. He described it as behind him, but he said he turned around, looked, and all that was there was the emergency locator transmitter. I mean, there wasn't anybody else with him in this cockpit, and and the voice that really probably was in his head, but he kind of looked around because like, where is it? Who's here? That says start your pull out early, and so he decided that was probably a good idea, and so he did, and he said there was at that moment there was an enormous downdraft that was not expected. And he said, had he not started out his pullout early, he would have become part of that mountain at very high speed. And so, sometimes our mystical experiences take the form of those kind of premonitions, or in dreams, and we could come a lot of different ways. But and the point isn't about trying to make the world work better, although sometimes it can. But sometimes we get promptings, and we have no idea what our script really is, ultimately, do we? But other than the ultimate result is that we will all let go of our dream of separation, right?
There you go. That's it. Because we already know, the script is written. We already know. So that and all these things are set. They're set in the script to like prompt us to look, to think, and to wonder, and to
Hmm.
ask the questions. And I mean, it seems like, and this is something I don't want to go into any great thing here because we're coming up on our time, but you know, it seems like, and this is not how I think, I'm just saying this is how it seems if you look at the world, that there are billions of people who are completely unaware of their own state of mind or who they are, what they are, or that there is, even if they claim to have some sort of a religion or a spiritual whatever that they follow, still are seem so absolutely ignorant of their own um, being what they are. And and you can say, well, they're just asleep, or they're just, they're if you're a gamer and play any kind of video games, they are an NPC, a non-player character.
Uh-huh.
They're incidental. If you saw that movie, Free Guy,
I
uh,
love that movie. That was a great
okay,
movie.
so
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
so you think that there are people who are actually NPCs. They're not really here for the same purpose that I'm here for. They're not doing the same thing I'm doing. Well,
Which makes differences real, right?
which makes the difference is real. It makes it seem real. But the truth is that that's my projection.
Yeah, yeah,
Every single bit of that is my projection, and
absolutely.
they are the same thing that I am.
Yep.
And whether they express and their, whatever, it doesn't matter, because they're no different than I am, and the script is written, and the point is at which every single one of them will, recognize that. And the fact that it's already done says that they already have. And
Hmm.
so I
Hmm.
can't look at one and say, oh, well, they're more evolved spiritually than, this person or that person, or you can't do that because there is no spiritual evolution.
Well, we don't even know what's going on in our own minds most of the time, as you were pointing out a moment ago. So
Right.
what audacity would we must have in order to assume we can even halfway second guess someone else's mind, and we base so much on superficial evidence of form and appearance, and
Which is interpreted by our own thinking.
yeah, and a lot of times, you encounter someone and you realize, wow, they're everyone has a fascinating story and insights that complement what I need to learn. And how could it be otherwise, right? I mean, if we all are part of the big puzzle and we're all equally vital to it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
And
right.
I need to leave in a couple of minutes because I'm facilitating another session this
Oh,
morning.
well,
So
just
time
run
is
off.
time has
Okay.
flown, huh?
So let's see.
Should we just
Let's
finish that
finish the
paragraph?
paragraph. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So during that time, I lived with the monks, praying, working, and eating alongside them, retaining only a separate room in the guest house. In general, this period could best be characterized as one of consolidation, settling down. I desperately needed it in order to bring together and integrate all that had occurred during the past year, and as it worked out, to prepare a solid foundation for what would come. My life was most regular, with most of the day set with aside for my work in the monastery, my writing, reading, walking, and above all for prayer, both the office and the mass, and the time I spent each morning before dawn being alone with God in the church. And I will put the marker there
Oh, good.
and stop the share. Wow, what a wonderful, I just love this.
Me too. Me too. And thanks to Robert and Rafi and Deb and Dove and everyone else hearing this after the fact. And yep, have a wonderful week and much love to all. And we'll pick up where we left off. Yeah,
Absolutely. Love
yeah.
you, Bruce. Have a great week.
Likewise. Thanks. Bye
Bye.
for now.
Bye for now.